Hi everyone, I decided to kind of split this part apart from the previous intro video because no one wants to scroll through 4 minutes of introduction to get to information they need, right? So in this video, we are going to talk about all the supplies you need for pressing your own eyeshadows. So let's get into that.
Alright, so let's start with the hardware and then we'll go into the software. And what I mean by that is let's start with all the hard stuff, like literally material, and then we'll go into the liquids and the powders. Okay, so first of all, you're gonna need a few mixing bowls. These are just, I think these are sauce servers, and I have purchased them from a kind of restaurant supply store for Asian restaurants that we have in the Bay Area. Advantage of being in Bay Area, guys, you have some really specific stores, and that's where I have purchased these. These were like just $1.50 each. And what I will try is, if I can find any of this stuff online, I'll try to put a link down below, because you know, this is I don't know where else you can find it. I'm very surprised I found it myself, but these are very handy because then they have this notch that helps you pour the shadow into. This is basically, I think, a tea maker, and they sold these sieves separately. I'm trying not to touch the inside because I have already sanitized these. This is another kind that they have with a little handle, and this one fits directly in. You might see some color because I have used these before, and the pigments sometimes end up staining, or I don't know, if I like use a scrubber and wash it like thoroughly, maybe that color will come off, but it'll not affect what we're gonna make. These were some silicone things that I got when I purchased my latest things from tkbtrading. They do tend to stain a bit, so I'm not a big fan of those, but they are good when you are trying to make smaller batches. But for usual stuff, I like these kind of sauce pourers, or you can even use like standard, you know, the Coningware bowls that you might have already at home, or any other ceramic bowl. I like Coningware because it's kind of break proof, and knowing how I am, that's always a plus. Then I think that this soup spoon is the best for kind of crushing pigments in, because if you're using shimmery mica and you grind it too much, it can end up damaging the shine. So this one I think is good for that. This was another thing that I found. Basically, it's just a spatula and at the store, and I use it to kind of push my product through. I would use either this or I use a brush. I don't like using the brush because sometimes the bristles can kind of break off and fall in, which I don't like, but the brush works the best, you know, getting product off of these like little, like I'll brush off product from outside as well, because then it just sticks and gets wasted otherwise. So you could use a brush or you could use a spatula. And then I have like multiple different measuring spoons. I have like these 1/8 through 1 teaspoon measures. Ooh, what's that? Okay, I might need to sanitize it again. These are just standard set of spoons that you could get anywhere. I prefer using stainless steel ones. And then these are like the tinier ones. This is like a drop, which is 1/64 of a teaspoon, a smidgen, pinch, blah blah. And I used to kind of estimate and guesstimate those using, like, this is actually a tea stirrer that came with one of the Indian teas, like an instant one that I purchased from the Indian stores. And this is, I think, the same size as this pinch measurement. And then I have recipes where I'm like half the scoop and 1/4 the scoop, and it's like all guesstimate. And then I have this like tiny little scoop. Again, I found that in the Chinese store, and I have used it to scoop out a little brush hair that might have fallen in, or to like just get a tiny bit more of the pigment, because pigments could be potent, and small amount do go a very long way. These are all, as I said, approximate measures. And then of course, if you want to press your pigments, you would need these pans. These are 26 mm pans from TKB. I think you can buy them in multiples of 25. So I have, you know, 100 packets. I have already finished, I think, 2 of the 25 pan packets. That many shares. And then I did give some as gifts during holiday and I do plan on sending more out to my friends and family, whoever enjoys my little hobby. And then there are these 15mm pans, and I thought they would be bigger. I thought they would be more like this size that you see in, you know, the other gift sets, but they're not. I think these are like 19mm, these are 15mm, but they still hold quite a bit of product, but they just look so tiny that I'm hesitant to use them. I don't know, I might use them, or I might just put the additional ones I have up for sale and get rid of them. But whatever size pan that you get, you can buy these press tiles or the tampers, which come with the tile attached to a little doorknob kind of a tool from tkbtrading itself, and they come in pretty handy because, you know, they are, you know, cut for that. If not, then you could actually use a coin. Like the 26mm pans are correct for a quarter, and then the 19mm pans, you can use a dime. I don't know what you can use for these tiny 15mm pans yet. So as I said, that was an accidental purchase. And what else? Oh yes, and then these two are kind of my pattern making tools, you can say. This is actually a part of an onion bag, you know, the bag that your onions come in. I cut a little piece, and I have, of course, sanitize it with alcohol and let it dry just before use every time. And this is basically a snowflake from a little stamping set, and this stamp came in it, and I've been using this as a stamping tool. I do plan to kind of make some proper ones from my Cricut in future, but right now these two are my go-to stamping tools. And then to press down the pigments, you can just use this and put a lot of pressure, but you can also use, there's a proper press that you can buy. I have just been using this little clamp, and you know, I just kind of position my pan underneath and use the non-tamper tile and just kind of press it down using this clamp. It kind of saves my joints just a bit. What else? It's better to have some spray bottles handy, and some droppers or little dropper bottles handy, because then you can put your liquids, you know, by the drop, and you get a better precise measurement. And did I miss any other hardware? I guess not. So let's move on to the powders. Okay, so now here are your kind of must-have powders that you will need if you want to press down your pigments, or if you want to follow my formulas. There are kind of some other options, and I haven't explored those. I do plan to in future, and if they're successful, I'll let you guys know. But one thing that you'll definitely need is a MyMix press base, and this was the only one I had purchased and owned for a long time, because I thought that's all I needed. But actually you do need a little bit more. There are some of these additional ingredients that I'm going to show you in here already, but having these extra ingredients has made a whole lot of difference. You definitely need a MyMix press base. I have transferred mine in a little kind of easy to use bottle. So sorry, that's CS Max, but. And then if you do plan on making any matte shadows, you definitely need a CS Max Ceratite mica. Now what this is basically Ceratite mica. Ceratite mica is kind of a really fine, not so shiny mica, which helps you have the slip of a mica without the shine, and that you would mix in with any of your pigments and create your basic powder that you will eventually add the liquids to. But CS Max is actually treated with what's called a I'm very sure I'm going to say this wrong. It's called Carnauba wax, Carnauba wax, and that is like beeswax almost, you can say. You know how you touch it and it kind of feels creamy almost. And if you notice, all the good matte shadows have like this, you touch it and it doesn't just feel like a dry powder, it almost feels like there's cream mixed in there. It's because of this wax and the additional ingredients we'll talk about. So if you want to make matte shadows, you will have to get a cerussite mica or a CS Max mica. I would highly recommend getting the CS Max or the Carnauba wax treated cerussite mica. Okay, you get the hint. Magnesium myrostate. You might have read that as an ingredient in a lot of your palettes. This is something that gives your, again, gives your shadows that kind of smooth, almost waxy feel. It's a derivative of palm oil, and you need it if you want to have good adhesion with either your shimmer or your matte shadows. In the past, I have tried just using the My Mix press base, the My Mix binder, along with, just the colored micas, and I have seen that they don't perform as well. But as soon as I changed my formula to include the magnesium myrostate, magnesium stearate, and zinc stearate, again, this is the stearic acids of zinc and magnesium, I have found that it increases the adhesion, which means that it the shadow goes on your skin, and when you like try to flick it, it doesn't just fly away from your skin. And that is what was happening without these three ingredients for me. And it will increase the blendability, of your shadow. And zinc stearate, actually, what it does is kind of blurs the look of fine lines. So I've already transferred these to a bottle. But for example, let me focus here. Let me see if I can zoom in. So you can see the little lines here. And I'm going to apply the zinc stearate to a part of it. And okay, there you go. You can see that it kind of blurs the lines, but at the same time it makes my skin like really tacky, as if like I have like some really good sticky primer on this area. But again, the disadvantage is that it can alter the color of the shadows you're trying to create. So there is always like a proportions game as to how much you can add. And in general, you will find basically notes online which say that don't add more than 10%, and it's kind of confusing. So I have kind of narrowed it down to what I like the outcome with. And then of course you need your colors. So you can buy some micas. These are my micas from tkbtrading. I absolutely love the quality of micas you get from them. They are so vibrant and beautiful. It has like this absolutely gorgeous payback. But if I don't have any ingredient in it, and if I flick it, look at that, it like just flies away from my skin. It doesn't stay on my skin. So that's why you need to add other things to it so that it stays. If I like put it on this area where I had the zinc stearate already, then it becomes almost permanent. But it's a balance game, as I said. These are just pure pigments, and what I mean by that is just mica and iron oxide. You can buy some matte pigments, like this is red oxide and ingredient is iron oxide, and that's it. So it's just pure oxide. Well, this you can say is just pure rust. Iron oxide is basically rust. This is carmine. Carmine is basically a bug derivative, like it's derived from bugs. It has roots based in Aztec culture. It's the most gorgeous red color you would find anywhere, and man has not been able to replicate it with just dyes or colors yet in a way that is actually not harmful for humans. And that's why this is still in usage, because it is a beautiful superbly pigmented thing. And it's completely acceptable. Actually, any of the food colorings that are red in color will have this as a part of it. So it's like lip safe, eye safe. You can just pretty much bathe in it and it's fine. You'll just turn red. It's very potent. And then this is another one. This is a matte red pop. This is kind of what TKB has already mixed. It has kaolin clay, red number 40, carmine, iron oxide, magnesium myristate already mixed in here, so you need to take that into consideration when you are doing your formulas. I do kind of tend to ignore it, but then finally when I'm adding my wet binders, I go by the feel. And then again, these are some of their colored micas. This is one of my favorites, Anastasia. I love this one too. Colorna Dark Blue and Sparkle Rose. This is what was basically pressed down into this shadow that I shared on my Instagram, and it has come out so beautiful. I love this color. So you could get your pigments from either tkbtrading, or you can get micas from a lot of different places. Like this is a BH Cosmetics pigment, but it might have some other ingredients already in it, so you need to kind of tweak your formulation of the base powders. These are Jessie's Girl pigments. I think these are pure pigments, like the Jessie's Girl ones. They don't have much additive to them. Let's see, let me just open. This one says open for ingredients, and this one has mica, titanium dioxide, and may contain iron oxide, chromium oxide, tin oxide, carmine, iron blue, iron oxide black, butane, red, DC number 7. So basically this doesn't have any of the additives, so you can treat it just like the tkbtrading pigments. This is just gorgeous. Look at that. Like, how freaking shiny and pretty is this pigment? I have 3 pigments from Jessie's Girl. I think this was available in Rite Aid. Of course, a lot of you might already know about the LA Colors pigments. These are a little bit hard to reach, but they are for $1 in a Dollar Tree, so you cannot beat that. And then there is an option is Nyx Pigments. Again, these are very, 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 very pretty pigments, but they can be slightly on the pricier side because, you know, they are kind of packaged and marketed as a finished products, and these do have other powders mixed in. A lot of times the Nyx pigments are fluorophorgraphite, which is an artificial form of mica. I haven't figured out the best way to press them yet, but that is another option. A lot of recipes call for silica microspheres, and I haven't purchased it because I feel like the NYX HD Studio powder, this one retails for $10 and it's more than what I will ever need. I don't like it in my formulations anyways, so we won't be using it in this series, at least. I don't like how the shadow comes out at the end and the feel of it just gets too slippery. I like the powder as a finishing powder, but I don't like the shadows or the highlighters that I make if I add the silica to it. And it's always good to have these powders that I use on a more frequent basis in these containers that are easy to reach and I can just scoop stuff out of without it getting all over the surface. Some housekeeping stuff. It's always good to have gloves, something to cover your table, or your table is going to end up looking like this. This is all glitter shimmery, totally up my alley, love it, but doesn't always look good when there are people or when you're showing someone, you know, like this is like on camera, I mean. And it's good to have a notebook, and I always write down, you know, whatever different recipes that I make. So if I want to make any changes in the future, then I can do that, or, you know, I know what I did or didn't do, what worked, what didn't work, kind of thing. Now let's get into the liquids. Alright, so here are the basic set of liquids that you will need that I will be using in my recipes. This is nothing but fractionated coconut oil, or it's called capric triglyceride or caprylic triglyceride. If you have read that in your shadow ingredient list, then that is what it is. It's basically just coconut oil, and this one has an indefinite shelf life. So it's kind of tweaked coconut oil. It's not really the pure, just pressed coconuts kind of a deal. And I have found that this has made a huge difference in how my shadows turn out. The next thing is the My Mix Pressed Binder. This is another thing that you will definitely need to have. You can kind of get away with just adding more oil, but I have seen that in terms of increasing the adhesion of your shadow to the skin, this one is good. So we have coconut oil and the My Mix Pressed Binder. I like having a little grapeseed oil, and this has, I think, a shelf life of about a year or so, and jojoba or jojoba oil. And another thing that you'll definitely need is a preservative. I have Preservative Cap 5. This is kind of a broad spectrum preservative, and I add like a drop or two of this preservative to my formulas depending on how many pans I'm making. And lately I have started adding dimethicone 350 by a few drops as well. It's a good additive to have. It's kind of optional, but I like my outcome when I have the dimethicone in the preparation. You don't have to necessarily run out and get everything except the preservative and the binder, because I found this one at Marshall's, and it's basically a lavender multi-use botanical oil, and in ingredients it says that it already has caprylic triglyceride, which is basically the coconut oil, argan oil, jojoba oil, safflower oil, soybean oil, lavender oil. So it already has all these oil ingredients in this one thing, and it does have, you know, the smell of the lavender. It's not good to have perfume in your makeup, but I think since it's not something like a foundation that is going all over your face and staying in a thick wet layer on your skin, we are just using these in small quantity in your eyeshadow, and on top of course, a eyeshadow primer. So initially when I did some trials and errors, I did use this. Now I don't use it since I have all the ingredients, and I don't plan on using it in the future, but you can definitely use it if you're just making these for yourself. What else? Did I cover everything? If I missed anything, I will put it down in the list below. In the next one, I will share what little percentages that I use. Yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to subscribe and give this video a big thumbs up if you like it. Okay, talk to you guys later. Bye.